Hey y'all, I just wanted to come on here and talk to y'all about something. But before we get into that, my niece gonna say my hair look a mess. It look raggedy. I'm like, girl, I got a little bunny bun. She was hating or whatever, but I love my boo, so it don't even matter. Anyway, I wanted to come on here and talk to you guys about something. I feel like the older that I'm getting, the more that I'm realizing that I may have traits of autism. I know y'all look at me and y'all like, girl, you ain't got no autism. And I know it's not really like a thing for most adults to get diagnosed with autism, but it's becoming more common than it's not. And I'm gonna tell you why I feel like I have traits of autism. When I was a kid, I didn't really speak a lot. And I didn't really start really talking until I was like 4 or 5. And I was very intelligent. I knew how to read and everything. I was very advanced. I had no problem as far as, educationally. My mind just processed things differently. Even when I noticed that my emotions were extreme, like I would go from being sad to mad. Like there was no real happiness in there. I gotta be happy sometimes, but it wasn't very often that I was happy. And I didn't know how to really like process my emotions. So I would get very emotional. I also realized that when I was younger, I used to eat my food and I used to walk around the table and pace back and forth. And it would drive my mom insane. She hated that. She would be like, why don't you sit down? Like, why are you up going around the table eating food? That's weird. And a lot of people treated me like I was weird. A lot of people treated me differently. A lot of people bullied me because I was different. And I didn't understand why. People just did not like me. So it made me kind of like shut off wanting to have friends and wanting to have connections with people. I just wanted to stay in my room majority of the time and never come out. And if you didn't force your way to be my friend, we were not friends. And I didn't have a lot of friends because I just had a hard time connecting with other people. And I have this issue where I bite my nails. Like I've been biting my nails since I was a kid. I know I'm 36 now. I still bite my nails. And it's still something that like people are like, oh, that's just anxiety. That's just, you're just trying to soothe yourself. I'm like, yeah, but that is also a form of a trait of autism. Um, and it was just something I just cannot shake the habit of. When I get overwhelmed or when it's overstimulated, I happen to do that. I also realized that for me, I just never really fit in. And I used to have this weird thing where I used to, math problems always seem like math equations, or like when I would draw, I felt like I would see math equations. I know it's weird, but hear me out. It used to make me a better artist. I used to see drawings and I would see like math equations. And I had this thing where I loved music. I loved music since I was a kid. And I would listen to the same songs over and over and over and over again. And I would play different parts of the song over and over again for hours and hours, sometimes days. And I still do the same thing. I just felt like I felt different. I knew I was different. And I didn't like to really be touched like that. I didn't like to be hugged like that, you know. In my romantic relationships, it kind of caused a little bit of a problem because it's like, why you don't like to be hugged? Why you don't like to be? But it just was like the excessive hugging and kissing. I don't like it. Like I do it with my son because he's more affectionate. His autism shows up in a different way. But I wasn't that affectionate. I didn't like to be hugged and kissed on, and I just didn't enjoy it. I just liked my personal space and to be to myself, and I was always like, just didn't want anyone to touch me. When I was growing up, autism really wasn't a thing like that. It was very rare that somebody got diagnosed with autism. And now a lot of people are realizing that they may, they have autism. And, you know, in the Black community, we don't believe anybody ever has anything. We just believe, oh, you different, you special. They never acknowledge anything. And then when now that I'm a 36-year-old adult, people are looking at me sideways like, girl, you ain't got no autism. But they don't know what I've experienced and what I've been through. And people have not been nice to me, and they're not nice to me now. They don't treat me good. And people don't know what I've been suffering with for 36 years. And, as a woman, I just mask it better. And sometimes because you are good at masking it, people assume that this is who you are, but they don't really understand what you've been dealing with, especially on the inside. I have attempted to commit suicide. I have hurt myself. I have harmed myself. I used to hit myself. I used to cut myself. And it just was because I felt like nobody understood me. And and a lot of people don't understand either that people with autism, they suffer depression at higher rates than normal people because a lot of people don't understand them and they don't know how to connect to them, so they treat them bad. They don't treat them very well. So for me, as a woman, I'm realizing that older I get, the worse it's getting for me. And the worse and the harder it is for me to have connections with people. And I just feel sad about that. But I have to advocate for myself. I am going to go get tested. I have a doctor's appointment next week, and we're going to sit down with the doctor, and then I'm going to find out when I'm going to be tested. And they didn't have resources for people like me back then, but they do now. So, you know, hopefully this will give me the proper resources and tools to help me build better connections and just live an easier life. And being a single mom with, exhibiting traits of autism, sometimes I get burnt out easily. I get overwhelmed. I'm overstimulated all the time, and it's hard. And then I'm dealing with a child who has autism. So it's just a lot. And, you guys pray for me on this journey. Leave some words of encouragement because I definitely need them. I thank y'all for listening to me and, watching my videos and just supporting me. That means a lot to me. I truly appreciate that. Being the type of person that I am, I just feel emotions so deeply. I'm very empathic. And a lot of people just used to think I was mean and didn't want to connect. And it wasn't that. It was that I didn't know how to process those big emotions that I had. And I didn't know how to connect to people. And I didn't want people to treat me bad or be mean to me because I was different. But, I got to advocate for myself if nobody else will. And nobody else was able to. To anyone out there, if you need to advocate for you. You need to look out for you. You need to be there for you. Sometimes you're not going to have somebody that's going to be able to do that for you. And that's okay. But now that you know better, you can do better. So that's all that we're doing is we're doing better. But I will talk to you guys later. And y'all have a good night. Bye.